Okay, so now that we've gone through all of that material, I'd like to try to make this a little bit simpler and more intuitive for you by giving you a quick tour of the application. The first thing to notice is over here on the right, I'm already signed in. If you didn't see your name there when you booted up the app, you would want to make sure that you signed in over there. If you are going to set up your equipment, your audio gear for the first time, or make a change in the setup that you've had up to this point, then you would go down here to audio gear and click on that. If your audio gear is already set up and you haven't changed anything, it will remain set up and you don't need to do this. This is what you'll always see first. It's always there, system default, playback only. And that doesn't represent my audio interface or anything, so I need to add that interface here at Add New Gear. Click on that. I do understand the gear, so I'll click Next. Okay, so this is the Select and Test page, and this is where you actually choose your input and your output. Your input is your audio interface, which is already connected to your microphone. In Windows, you'll see actually the name of the driver and not the piece of equipment. I don't know why. In Mac, you'll see the name of the piece of equipment only. But in this case, in Windows, you always want to use an ASIO driver, not this one. This one doesn't work well. It doesn't come with the interface or anything. You want to go down to the one which has some part of the name of your interface attached to it. My interface is the UMC, Behringer UMC 204 HD interface. So I see UMC ASIO driver, that's the one I want. And the output will be the same as the input because my headphones are plugged into the interface. So it's already running its test results to make sure that I'm in good enough shape to join a session, and I am. Green or yellow are both acceptable. If you get red, it will tell you that you need to fix something and it won't actually let you go forward. But I haven't seen that happen very often if someone had any idea how to set up their equipment or had an interface. So everything looks good. Let's go forward. Now what you'll see is the configure tracks. And I add the track, and now I click next. And this screen you saw before, nobody uses a chat microphone anymore. I'm talking into a mic. I don't need any other microphone to be heard. So I'll click next. And this is telling you to turn off direct monitoring. I explained that before. You want to hear the sound that goes through JamKazam, not sound that just stays between your interface and your mic. But I will click play and make sure I can hear these sounds. And I can in both ears. So that's all I need to do. And now I click next and success. I'm all set up. Click close. And I can see that everything appears to be set up correctly. So now I'm going to go back to the home page and I'm going to create a session. Go over here to create session. I'll just create a quick start solo session. I recommend this because it gives you a chance to make sure everything looks like it's running properly. You can see the numbers. You'll see what I mean before you invite people to join you. Here are my live tracks, as they call them. And you can see that my mic is picking up. You can see here, if I hover over this circle, that all of the circles are green. My processor's not too overburdened. My latency, internal latency from the interface is 4.2 milliseconds, which is good. My driver is the ASIO driver I chose. And my frame size is 2.5, which is perfectly acceptable. Okay, so now that we have created a solo session and tested the equipment and checked the numbers and seen that everything's green, everything seems to be in place. The next step is to invite musicians into your session. We go over here to invite musicians and we click on this. And this little window comes up. And in this blank, you can begin to write the name of anyone on your friends list that you'd like to invite. Or the other way to do it is just this, click on choose friends, and you'll see a list of your friends. And right here is David Sabella. So I'll click on that because of course I would invite David Sabella if I could. Then you click add selected friends and he gets an invitation, which once he accepts, he is in your session. Okay, so I want to show you a few other things. First of all, I'd love to show you the video function, as simple as it is, But this particular application won't allow me to show any pop-ups. They just disappear as I film the screen. So I'll just have to describe it. You click on this button and you just get a video window about yay big with your face in it. And the other people in the session with you get some kind of a notification saying, please enable your webcam. And once they do, their video pops up too, and you will be a little tiny, square in the bottom left until you go up here. There is a place where you can change the array of videos. You can have them side by side or in what they call Brady Bunch, different configurations that you can have. Okay, so that is how video works. Record. If you want to record, as you saw earlier, this is the button. You press this and you click this, I should say, and you get this. When you want to record, you choose either audio or audio and video. You click start recording and the recording begins. When you're finished, you click here again, it will say stop recording, and at that point it ends. Then what you have to remember is that the files, the audio files that you've recorded, will not actually be uploaded or processed until after everyone in the session leaves the session. That button is up here. You always click that when you're done before you close the application. Once you do leave the session, all of you, you'll see this area down here start to get very busy, and there will be little tiny fonts saying uploading, downloading, converting, and so on. When that ends, you'll be back to seeing this little tiny font of File Manager. And you want to click on that then. What that is going to show you is all of the recordings you've made. I've got quite a few here. And it will show you the tracks that have been uploaded and saved. As I told you before, this mix is their attempt to mix the high quality tracks. And frankly, it's not usually worth bothering with. I use the stream mix here, which is what I heard in my headphones while I did the recording, because it's the same low latency that I heard, and nothing will change that. And it's much more of a pleasure to hear this than to hear whatever their mix does. But meanwhile, you get these individual audio tracks at high quality, and those are worth their weight in gold, because it's like being in a recording studio where you can have a separate vocal, you can have a high quality piano track that is form-fitting and perfectly tailored to that singer's performance, and so on. That is what this is for. And when you see that it's all been uploaded like this, you can click export here. And that will put a copy of all of these files in actually two places on your computer. The main one would be in Documents, JamKazam, Recordings, and you will see each of these labeled correctly by whose track it was and I think what they were playing. Okay, so I'll close this out. Before I leave this area, I just want to make a couple of points about the recorded audio column here. It actually does have quite a lot of application. The recording link here brings up all the recordings that you have done, again, similar to the other window, except that in this case, these are links that you can click in order to go back and see the actual tracks in this session. Come back, the exact tracks that were recorded separately when you made this recording. And what that's good for is not only just to hear the recording, if you want, but let's say you have a bass player and a drummer and a singer, and you're a pianist, and you want to practice, you want to rehearse that tune on your own. What can you do? You can listen to this. You can just mute yourself and then play along with the bass and the drum and the singer. Similarly, if you're a singer and you've got a combo, this is another way to be able to work with them without your own vocal in there. It's music minus one, kind of in the 21st century. So that is what that is for. And I think that's kind of neat. I don't use it all the time, but I like it. This also, audio file, is simply a way you click here and you get to browse your computer hard drive and pick any audio files that you have. And those files can then be played in this session for everyone to hear and play along with and what have you. Lastly, the metronome is actually atypical. It's something special. It's patented. It's called a distributed metronome. Essentially what it is that they have patented a technology that allows the metronome to slightly shift position according to the latency of the connection so that the metronome is local to each musician and is set in such a way that it helps bring the musicians' time together. It's quite impressive. It's an interesting concept. And if you like using click tracks and such, or if you need to because you have a band and too many people and it's hard to keep together across a great distance, this is a useful tool. Okay, I'm just going to jump up here to manage. This little tiny drop down is very important in working through this application. There are many things here that we don't need to go into right now, but a couple that we should. Here in audio settings, this is Audio Booster, which I showed you earlier. This is where we went to tweak a couple of audio settings in order to try to either aggressively push the latency down, or let's say you were getting too many artifacts, pops, buzzes, you might actually go the other way and raise these numbers slightly in order to get the audio quality better and give up a little bit maybe of low latency. So the lower these numbers here are, the lower the latency may be. The higher they are, the safer it may be for audio quality. So that's kind of how I look at it. Also in audio settings, you have the audio console, which is essentially a bunch of faders that you can use to mix the different elements. In my case, the MIDI keyboard, the vocal mic, which I wouldn't want to have heard in a recording, the singer's vocal mic, whoever else is on the session will be here. And this is different from personal mix because this is the actual mix that's going out in a recording or in a broadcast or what have you. So this is important for the session creator to be able to manipulate and handle. And that is who generally can use it, is only the session creator. Unless you go over here to settings, the only thing I'm going to show you about that is you can decide if you want to who is the mix controller, and you can change that person in the middle of a session. Okay, so otherwise up in manage, the video settings. The video console is the thing I told you about where you get to choose among the different arrays of cameras. Screen recording sharing is just what it sounds like. Recording streaming audio is useful for just one thing. It's the audio sync delay. If you have video going and you notice that the video may lag a little bit behind the audio, you can increase the delay slightly by a few milliseconds and see if that brings them together, which it may do. Networking, I'm just going to show you this to point you towards the kind of the cutting edge of where JamKazam is headed now. It has always been a peer-to-peer system or program. Peer-to-peer means there's nothing in between you and the other musician. There are no other servers you have to bounce to and so on. And normally that's a good thing because in many cases like Zoom, I would bet that they have 4 huge servers around the country or something, and your signal may go to Ohio every time before it comes back to New York, and that helps account for why the latency is so much greater. But in this case, they've done something a little unusual. They have invested in space in like 60 to 70 servers around the country and in Europe. The point of that is that there are servers everywhere nearby. And in about 25% of the cases, I'm told that this new setting, this new aspect, which will become the default, the adaptive path selection, will decide for you, the app will decide whether you're going to have a better connection, lower latency going peer-to-peer or going through a certain server near you, and it will make that choice. And I'm told that it will, in those cases, definitely improve the connection and lower the latency. And last, I'm just going to mention this, the live broadcast feature, which is going to be the subject of the next class. So I won't try to go into it in great detail, but I'm going to explain it to you kind of in an overall sense now, live and in person.